similar to your partner, will you and your daughter have conversations that really help you
Oh, yeah.
change things? Yeah. What does that look like?
Conversations with the 8-year-old is different from conversations with the 37-year-old.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciate about those conversations with my daughter is that they have to be taking complex philosophies
Yeah.
and ways of doing life and being able to simplify them so that they can be grasped and understood by 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Is such a challenging thing to do, especially when you're talking.
And we're not trained to do it.
To not have that training or guidebook
Yeah.
of how to have these conversations is a problem I see, and so I just intuitively tried to guide myself through these conversations and to simplify them so that she can understand them is part of the whole process.
Yeah.
And then how do I model them, to her instead of just trying to tell her what to do? How am I showing her what to do? So I often think about, okay, what's the best way to actually model this and fully embody it? Because she's going to think it's bullshit if I'm telling her you should be doing this and I'm doing the complete opposite, right? Which is often a big problem in parenting is we're telling our kids, you need to do this thing.
They're not seeing it.
We're not actually doing the thing that we're telling them to do. Then they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that thing because you're not doing it. But they're going to do the thing that you've been doing. And so
they're moving all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard having that.
Such a great mirror. Such a great mirror.
I'm going through a different experience because my 14-year-old is pulling away as he normally does, spending more time with friends. And it's like I'm reaching for that connectedness. And he's pulling back and I'm reaching in. And it's like that dynamic of like, how do we just come together in this fun space? So we want to do something enjoyable and learn together and have fun together. And while he's pulling one way and I'm leaning in. And so if I wait for him, sometimes that's the best way. But sometimes I don't want to just wait for him to lean in. So it's an interesting dynamic having a teenager coming out of, younger children who need you. And they need you less. And they do need you less. Like they are becoming very independent. They do need you less. And so figuring out that balance point of like, okay, where am I needed? How do we still engage? How do we communicate that? Because they shut down verbally too. It's like there's an on and off switch. They get loud or they get quiet. Sure. There's very little middle.
So yeah. Up for you.
Well, the first thought is, I think back to what I was like, which is hard, actually hard to think back that far of like, what was I going through? Because we're flooded with chemicals. We're flooded with different things at that time. I think back to the way I related to my parents, but I think that's not as relevant because I'm raising them in a different way. I'm raising them in a much more conscious way. And you had mentioned a book. One of the books I use is Dr. Shefali's Conscious Parenting, around what is it in me, similar to what you were saying, that's triggered or challenged right now. And why am I kind of bringing that up? Because it's my thing. It's not his thing. He's fine. So how do I just be kind of open to him in that moment of like, hey, what are you going through? How can I support you? And how can we have fun together and still engage without just an isolation? So it's new. I'm definitely a new. You go from all these stages as a parent, a toddler, and then the middle years, and then the teenage years, and then they get older and move out. And there's that dynamic. And so one of the things I do, it sounds silly, is I'm counting backwards from when he becomes 18. Instead of counting up, I'm counting down. So he's 14. So I've got 4 years to have something still special. And it'll still be special after that, but I'm counting downwards. And that helps me have more humbleness and appreciation and gratitude. Because it's finite. It's not infinite. And it helps me get back into that moment of like, man, I'm going to miss these days. And so don't miss them. Just be in the moment right now and enjoy them while you're here. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Counting down. Because you think you have so much time.
Yeah. And I've lost 2 friends my age. I've lost 2 fathers in the last few years. And it really drove home of like, oh, this body is not forever. Yeah. And that moment as the father, the parent, the partner, it is not a guarantee. None of it's guaranteed. And that's really helped. The sad part is obviously terribly sad to lose friends our age. But that insight is like, it's gold.
Yeah.
It's a golden insight of like this little thing called life ain't guaranteed. You don't know how it's going to go. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know how we're going to react and what we're going to do in our lives. So it makes it precious.
Mm.
And it's a gift to get that time. And if I can get into that space, it's a totally different dynamic.
Cool.
Yeah. If I get into the dad space and I need this and I want to do this, and it just kind of breaks down.
Sorry for that loss. When the death is such a powerful teacher,
Yeah.
as we've heard. And so I'm happy to hear that it's giving you this perspective. I think a lot of us lose because life can move so fast.
Yeah.
So many distractions that keep us from really keeping focus on the things that really truly matter. And, you putting your focus